Our guest in this edition of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, is Local Kid Makes Good. And we're talking about real good. Bill Hemmer, Our Lady of Victory, Elder High School, Miami of Ohio, up in Oxford, Ohio. That's where he was educated. He is a Cincinnati area, Ohio, born, grown, educated superstar now. WLWT, WCPO. But then on he goes to CNN, Fox Sports. I mean, he's a national, international correspondent. He was the keynote speaker at the Miami of Ohio School of Business commencement, the Farmer School of Business. He's done all kinds of things. He is a worldwide respected news anchor, reporter, star. He loves the Bengals, and he talks about his love for the Bengals openly. And I was in Kansas City with him and asked him if maybe we could catch up to talk about our joint love of the Cincinnati Bengals, and he was all over it. So here's Bill Hemmer. Boy, did you make a good call if you joined us in the trenches here this morning with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, because we are in studio with the man, the legend, Bill Hemmer in the house.
How you doing, Lap?
How about Bill Hemmer? Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking Fox News. We're talking America's Newsroom. This is the man right here. We're talking Bill Hemmer Reports. This is, and I just think back. I remember Bill Hemmer when he was at WLWT here in Cincinnati and WCPO in the news sports department with Dennis Janson, John Popovich, Bill Hemmer. What a powerhouse sports department. I was fortunate enough to do some things with you guys. And I'll tell you, Bill, everybody in Cincinnati is proud of you, man. Proud of your career.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lap. You're very gracious. Thank you for saying that. We had some good ones back in the day, and we can get that in a minute. But I saw you in Kansas City, and we spoke pregame, and I think like some of the points you made were spot on. You know, when I look at the way the game developed, and I mean, we're talking on a Wednesday afternoon. I mentioned a moment ago to you that I'm still in the stage of denial, so I've kept myself very busy since Sunday night.
Oh man, it was. Had the chances, right? I mean, it was there for the taking. And I know, I mean, Our Lady of Victory, Elder High School, Miami University. You are a Cincinnati region guy. I mean, you love your Cincinnati sports, don't you?
I'm with you on that, Lap. I tell you, I've been living away from home for 25 years at least, right? Yeah. And when I lived in Atlanta, I would go to a sports bar. You know, Atlanta's got great weather, right? It's September, October. You should be golfing, right? Sure. Well, I would go to the sports bar and beg the bartender to put the Bengals game on. And I would ask for just one monitor in the entire place, like far off in the corner. And, you know, I don't need audio. I just want to see it. And so my allegiance to the team has run very deep and very long and very strong for a long time. Fortunately, today, we don't have to do that because we're a respected club again. And there's actually a sports bar in downtown New York in the East Village called Phoebe's. And they have a Bengals club. So they have a Bengals bar. So during the game, I mean, maybe some of your listeners know this, maybe they don't, but they'll play, you know, the fight song, and they'll play the Who Dey chants. And after every score, they got something going on. And it's cool to see people from back home who are living in New York and want to get together collectively as a little community here in New York and cheer the team on. So that's been fun. But this past weekend was tough, and I'm sure you're feeling it too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But, you know, it is interesting, like you said, the interest in the football team, back-to-back AFC Championship games, and Joe Burrow came within a whisker of being the first quarterback in NFL history to win back-to-back conference championship games on the road. Wow. Now, obviously, quarterbacks have won back-to-back conference championship games, but at home, and maybe once on the road and another at home. Never back-to-back road conference championships has ever been accomplished. And oh man, came so close to get
so close.
Yeah.
You know, Lap, I went on my way back, and I always take the first flight out the next morning. I took the 6 a.m. out of Kansas City. I was half asleep.
Yeah.
But I didn't, you know how you can see things in the stadium that you can't see on TV, some things.
Right.
And you can see some things on TV that you clearly cannot see in person. So, you know, when you're watching the game, it was so confounding to a lot of people, I think, in the stadium as to what was going on a number of these calls. I'm not here to, you know, make the refs a scapegoat, but you were the one who explained to me at 6 o'clock the next morning on your YouTube interview. At least I found it on YouTube anyway, about the side judge having a problem with the game clock and the play clock. I don't know if people at Arrowhead Stadium saw that, but I know the entire section that I was with, Bengal fans and Chief fans, we were confounded by what was happening.
As was I mean, everybody was, because
hey, Lap, I played football at Our Lady of Victory.
Right.
I mean, third grade that never happened.
Right. A play that took place never happened. It's erased from history. That third down snap that the Bengals executed and were going to get off the football field never occurred. It was an incomplete pass, and what happened is the game clock operator started the game clock, so it was ticking down 7 seconds, and he is blowing his whistle. It's so loud nobody can hear the whistle, and he's running in from his deep position up the Bengals sideline, waving the play dead. And at that point, man, just if the ball snapped, let it go. Yeah. Just let it go. You know, I mean,
I think that's on the refs. Take the players out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the officials did not officiate that play effectively.
Yeah. I mean,
anyway,
by league rule, I hear you.
I'm working toward anger.
I think they need to change the rule book, because by league rule, if you have to readjust the clock, you have to play it down over. It's almost like you're in your backyard and you're playing touch football as a kid. Oh no, that's a do-over. Mm-hmm. That's a do-over. You know, this you can't do this and you can't do that. Okay, well, let's just do the play over again. Mm-hmm. There's no do-overs in the NFL playoffs. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, you're right.
But there were a lot of questionable ones.
You know what I think, Lap? I think the NFL has to get into a new rule. And that really doesn't have to do with what we're talking about, but it really has to do with the Mahomes injury. Because not just the past weekend, but the weekend prior, there were 2 incidents in 2 different games where you've got defenders who are pulling on the back of an offensive quarterback or running back or receiver, and they're pulling their bodies on the backside of their legs. And look, you know, I want to get your opinion on this, because I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now, because I think the league needs to do something about it. They did something about the helmet. So here's my idea to you. If you're as a defender, you're trying to hold a running back up, you know, for a half of a second longer to try and strip the ball out. Well, now you see these guys that are so strong, and I think it comes from the core of the body. Their abs are so strong that they can pull themselves almost like gymnasts around the quarterback or the receiver, the running back, and fall on the back of their legs. And you saw what happened to Mahomes. I think in the offseason, the NFL needs to take a look at this. I think you could develop a system where you could look at an instant replay to see whether or not it was intentional or not, and perhaps give the warning or throw a flag. Have you thought about that yet?
Yeah, it's particularly in this era of player safety. You know, I mean, that's and the one that they want to protect the most is the quarterback, because that's one that everybody pays good money to go watch. I mean, if they're going to go to a game, they're going to go to a game that you have a superstar quarterback playing in. And so it is interesting that quarterbacks, they're protected. They're going to try to protect them as much as they possibly can, though. There's no question about it. But I don't know. Part of me is so old school. Things that happened back when I was playing, they're gone, and I think it's a better game that they're gone. But, you know, part of me is like, you almost can't prevent everything, but things that are preventable, like you're talking about, you should try to do.
Anyway, just a thought. It's been in my mind. I just want to know what you thought about it.
Yeah. You know, here's one thing that I thought about during the course of the game with the officials. All right. The officials all year long, they work together as a team. They study tape.
Absolutely.
They're in, okay, when they're in this formation, I need some help from you to see this if they motion to this, and all this teamwork that goes on. and then they get into the playoffs, the highest level of the game, and they have all-star crews that haven't worked together all year long. Right. So now it's like, all right, well, do that for the Pro Bowl.
1,000%.
Let the All-Stars go to the Pro Bowl and let them referee the flag football game that goes on now. What they should do is, okay, in the division, the wild card round of the playoffs, the crew that graded 5th best, that crew goes to those games. In the division game, the crew that graded 4th best goes. The conference, 3rd best, 2nd. And then at the Super Bowl, the crew that graded the best gets the Super Bowl. And then if you need to repeat, not enough crews that graded that high, give them 2 weeks in a row. Let them work together, and then maybe get in a better rhythm. Instead of just taking a hodgepodge of guys together, like the all-star field judge, the all-star side judge, or whatever, that graded the best. They haven't worked together all year long.
Yeah,
and the teams have worked together all year long, and they're in the playoffs advancing. Why the heck wouldn't you do that with the officials? Yeah. The crews that graded out the best, let them advance with the teams that graded out the best and are advancing the playoffs. I don't get that.
Yeah, no, too, you're totally right about that. Chemistry is such a big part of how we as humans, whether it's your offensive line or whether it's your co-anchor you're working with every day.
Right.
When you change personnel, there's an adjustment that needs to be made. I tell you, Lap, I haven't watched the second half yet. I recorded it. Just haven't had the time yet.
Yeah.
And I was at the Super Bowl last year. And listen, I know I'm supposed to be like impartial because I'm a news guy, right? I'm a fan of this team, and my loyalty is never going to bend. I mean, I was there through the dark, dark days, and I'm proud of them, and I'm not afraid to say it. So I'm at that Super Bowl last year, and what I like to do is when I see the game, I think I got a pretty good eye. I mean, I'm one of those nerds that takes binoculars to a game when I'm sitting in the 5th row, because I want to see what's going on in the interior of the line. I want to know what's going on. There were several plays in that Super Bowl last year. It was like, like the Jamar Chase one-handed catch. I don't think he was ever down. He was never touched by the cornerback. I want to say Jalen Rose, but is that his name? Ramsey, thank you very much. Jalen Rose, a basketball player. Anyway, so I watched the game on the JetBlue flight back, and on the NFL Network, they fast forward through all the commercials, and that's how I was able to endure it. I just think every play that I saw with my own eyes confirmed for me what I saw on camera. Now, here's my point. We'll go nameless, but I was at a charity event here in New York in June. Maybe it was July. It was this summer. It was at a golf event north of the city. And this guy walked in, and he had a logo on for the Super Bowl. I said, "Who's your team?" He says, "Well, neither. I'm an official." I said, "Oh." And he said, I had 15 family members, or how many I had. I said, "Oh, it's kind of like I had 15 family members. It was a very expensive month." When you're getting Super Bowl tickets for so many people.
Yep.
And I started asking about all these plays. I said, "Did you throw the penalty on Logan Wilson because you missed the interference on Jermaine Pratt the play before?" And he couldn't recall. And then I said, why was that helmet to helmet on Von Bell? Von Bell had one option to try and separate that receiver from the football. That wasn't a dirty play. Right. And when Cooper Kupp went down, he went down in a heap. And then he didn't go to the sideline. He went back to the huddle. Why was all that? He couldn't recall any of it. So to your point, Lap, I agree with you. You got to get the best teams involved, not individuals.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me get that off my chest.
Yeah, I hear you. There are so many things. How about the shot that Joe Burrow took? The guy crushes him to his shoulder and almost his helmet, knocks him backwards after the ball's long gone, does a backward somersault, gets up and looks at the referee like, "That's not roughing the passer? Are you kidding me?" That is a clip. That's just
I know. I mean, look, you and I sound like such homers, but we love the team, and what we're saying is not wrong.
Right.
It's just a question of where your subjectivity lies.
And here's the thing that bugs me too, and probably every fan base in every city has the same opinion. I think as the games advance, the league says, "Look, swallow your whistles. Don't make this a penalty show. We want to accentuate the talents of the players and the teams." So they swallow their whistle some, but then they don't, and they're inconsistent when they do and when they don't. It's like now the league is planted in their head, should I call this one or not? The league doesn't want us calling too many penalties. Is that egregious enough? And now you've killed the officials. You've killed them.
Yeah, Lap, you've worked in TV a number of years, and I don't know if
Yeah,
your listeners know, but you and I have known each other for a long time.
a long time.
I was like a 22-year-old kid, carrying a microphone down to Spinney Field back in the day.
Right.
and you were there and you were working, and you've been around TV a lot, and so have I. I think instant replay is affecting the way they see the game, and there's a fallback on every play. If they miss a call, then they can call New York, or they get something wrong, they can have it corrected. And it's I don't know what the answer is. It's neither right nor wrong. I'm just working toward my stage of anger as I speak.
Right, I hear you.
And that's just where I am, man. So many people showed up in LA last year, and they're like, "Oh, Hemmer, isn't it great that we got here?" I said, "No, no, 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 no." I said, nothing is more important than victory. And if you don't win, you will be haunted by this potentially for years. So we got to win the game. And, they call me up a week later and say, "Man, you were right." And, a year later, it hurts. Super Bowls are hard. Winning Super Bowls is rare.
Yeah.
I live in New York. The Jets haven't been there in how long?
Wow.
I live in New York, and the New York Giants fans expect to be in the Super Bowl every year.
Right.
The Green Bay Packers expect to be there every year. The Pittsburgh Steelers expect to be there every year. San Francisco 49ers, same deal. For San Francisco, they were there a couple of years ago, but all those other teams, it's been a long time. And we're frustrated now because we're coming out of, burnt ends in Kansas City and rib jacks. Am I wrong?
No, you're exactly right.
Anyway, go ahead with more questions. I could go on and on, but I'll stop.
Well, Brady messed it up for everybody. 7 Super Bowls. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's difficult to just get there. To win 7?
I agree. You know what? I was reminded of this past weekend. Kansas City has played in 5 straight AFC championships.
Right. Hosted them.
In the same state. That's remarkable. And whether it's Mahomes or Andy Reid or both of them, you must pause for a moment and applaud what they have done.
No question about it. And it's like, okay, the age-old question for a long time until they separated was, okay, is it Belichick? Is it Brady? Who's responsible? Well, it's a combination, but then Brady goes down to Tampa and wins another one. So, it's like, hey, I'm a big factor here. But it is. I mean, head coach and quarterback have to have a symbiotic relationship, obviously, and it has to work.
I would just say about that, I called that the COVID Bowl because we went down there. We sat Lap, check this out. They had the poor volunteers, thousands of them. They had to get screened before they went to the stadium. They're at 4:00 in the morning. The line went on forever. We're sitting 5 seats apart. Everyone's wearing a mask outdoors. But Kansas City's offensive line was beaten up significantly. I remember Mahomes, they clocked him running like 24 miles or something ridiculous during that game. Tampa had the edge going into that game because of the condition of the Chiefs. And that's just another sign that you got to be healthy at the end of the year. And I don't know what our offensive line would have done against Philadelphia.
Philadelphia's trenches are I think their offensive defensive line combined might be the best in the league. Philadelphia had 75 sacks counting the playoffs now. They have 4 different guys with 11 or more sacks. 4 of them. Yeah. It's like, whoa. Yeah, that one would have been a tough battle, a tough grind. But you never know. You got to play the games, There's no question.
I thought we played KC 4 times in 13 months. Yep. I don't know what the mayor was thinking, but he's apologized. I don't think it helped, but it's water under the bridge. Chris Jones is a great player.
Oh,
but
man.
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I thought in the previous 3 games, the previous 3 matchups with Kansas City, Chris Jones really, I didn't see him as a factor. But in this game, he was. Do you agree with that observation or not?
Totally. I mean, Chris Jones, it was unique. 12, might have been 14 playoff games. He did not have a quarterback sack in his playoff career. He got 2 in this football game. But I agree with you. I think Chris Jones was playing every snap. He has a little bit of a reputation for, I'm double teamed. Yeah, maybe lived for another snap. This one, man, he was splitting double teams. He was playing. Every single snap, he was El Lodo. I agree with you 100,000.
El Lodo. Really I saw what he said after the game. He said he's been working all year for a rematch. I mean, it was obvious he wanted revenge, and He got it.
Yep. Yep. It was, and what can you say about Patrick Mahomes? He was, in hindsight, you know, you look at it and you say, maybe we should have pressured a little more off his right side and make him go to his left and throw, because he was struggling a little bit with that right ankle, high ankle sprain. When he had to roll left and then pivot and plant and throw, he winced a few times. He said he was in pain doing that. If we could have gotten him to his left instead of letting him roll to his right so much where he was more comfortable, and then in hindsight, maybe get Joe Burrow out of pocket. Let him roll to the right a little bit and change the launch point, and not let them just zero in on, let's go here, here, here every time to get after Joe Burrow. But you can always, in games like that, you can always
I think it's a great point. I love our defense. I'm not going to second guess Anarumo, but so when you're playing, right, you go into the game with a game plan.
Yep.
And if it's not working, do you have one backup plan or two backup plans? Or do you go to the bench and say, hey, this isn't working out, let's try D, E, F, G, or H? I mean, how does that work?
You know, that's a great point, Bill. It's like that the one thing that these coaches talk about. Well, Lou Anarumo has adjustments and adjustments to adjustments. He keeps things in his back pocket that he's not going to pull out until the second half for the very reasons you're talking about. And to give the coaches credit, when players come off the field and say, Coach, look, they're doing this, we can't be doing that anymore. We got to think, we got to do something else. They do let the players' input affect, you know, how they're going to make adjustments, and they trust each other. There's a relationship there that's built on trust and respect and all those good things. That's part of the reason that they've had so much success offensively and defensively. I mean, the players listen to the coaches listen to the players. It's a two-way street, definitely. And that's why the team, I think, performs as well as it has. They've had some come from behind wins like you're talking about, and things of that nature. It's like, you just can't keep doing the same stuff. You gotta move on. You got to get to something else. There's no question.
Yeah, you know, I think the football IQ on this team is exceedingly high.
Yep.
I love the person they're going for, the type of player they're going for. It was awful for Osai. You know, he came to football late in life, got the full ride at UT in Austin.
Yep.
I remember the story I read last year about him playing that preseason game against Tampa and finally sacking Tom Brady, and basically sat out the season and came back so well. But, you know, he's a good guy, and he's a hungry player. And I really respect what B.J. Hill and some others did for him in that post-game interview in the locker room. So,
yeah, I think it shows the bond. It shows the connection. I agree with you. I mean, I think there are so many leaders on that football team. And you made a great point, Bill. They've really made an emphasis on drafting intelligent players as well as intelligent football players, but overall raw intelligence, captains, leaders. You know, they really have, their roster is a high caliber, you know, person, not just football player, in terms of, you know, their overall approach to everything. I got it before we wrap up here, though. I've got to ask you, and I tell people all the time, I know that guy. You know, that guy that's interviewing Trump right now, that guy that's interviewing this world leader right now, Bill Hemmer. I know that. I worked with that guy in Cincinnati, you know, and they're like, get out of here. What's he like? Oh, he's a great guy, man.
Thanks.
So what all of the things that you've covered, I mean, all of the unbelievable events, whether it's 9/11, whatever it is, what had the biggest impact on you in terms of covering that particular event?
Well, it's a great question. I think it's a profound question. 9/11 always enters that conversation, because it changed so much for so many people all over the world.
Sure.
And I think on the big breaking news stories, when you get to see life change for millions and millions of people before your eyes, it's a phenomenal privilege to be able to do that and tell the world what you're seeing. And I don't take it lightly. I hope no one ever think I did or have. But when it comes to those big events, I think the recount election, when I worked for CNN down in Tallahassee, I was the first one in and the last one to leave for 37 days. I didn't understand constitutional law. I had no idea. I'm up reading the New York Times at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to understand what the questions are. I mean, but that was an enduring story that has always had an impact. 9/11, I would put in that category. You know, trips to Afghanistan or Iraq are always significant. Wars in the Middle East are big markers in your life. But there's There's two stories just real quickly that I would say have stayed with me for a long time. One was something you would not probably expect, but that was an earthquake in Haiti. And we went down there. I mean, that's a country that's got nothing to begin with, and their leadership sucks, and their government's terrible and has been for decades. And so many countries chuck so much money into that corrupt government, and the people suffer for it. And then you're down there and you're like, well, and Mother Nature did this to you? Like it was real. It was a tearjerker for me, and I did not expect, because when you do these stories, you keep your head, your emotions like at arm's length, and you don't want it to get in the way of your brain thinking. And but that was hard to prevent from feeling that for them. I'd say the other thing was the Newtown massacre. That was I tell you what, Lap. You'll know what I'm saying. I've known you long enough that when you walk through the parking lot of that Newtown Elementary School, you could smell the scent of the devil all around you. And you don't forget that either.
Man, that's powerful stuff. I mean, you have led quite a life, my man. It is amazing. Every place you've been, things you've seen, and you're still a young man. I mean, it is unbelievable. Final question.
Yes, sir.
In terms of a person, and you've interviewed some unbelievable people with different personalities and different successes and whatever. It runs the gamut from evil to great to and in between. What person impacted you the most? Maybe not necessarily, I don't know, with what they said in the interview, but did you go in with one opinion, come out with totally another on one of these major interviews, or what interview has struck you the most?
Well, it's a great question. I'm going to say this the right way. I don't think I've had it yet.
Gotcha.
I think that we cover a lot of politics, and you talk to a lot of politicians, and I realize they've got a job to do, and I've got a job to do, and so I haven't really walked away with that. You know what? I guess their commitment to service is what has always impressed me. Their commitment to the job and diving into the policy and trying to come up with the best idea. That's always impressed me with them. As far as entertainers or athletes, I don't, maybe Joey B wants to sit down and talk. I mean, that would really leave an impression. Years ago, I was working at CNN, and Al Green came into the studio. I know there's a little, it comes out of left field a little bit, but Al Green was so cool and so smooth, and he was so not what I expected. And he just, put a chill over the entire studio for the rest of the day. And I don't know. I've never forgotten the attitude that Al Green brought to that moment. So, and that's what comes to mind.
That's interesting. I'll tell you, Bill, you're an incredible guy. I mean, I don't know of anybody else really that I know that has seen the world through the eyes that Bill Hemmer has seen the world. And I mean, the whole world. It is unbelievable, the experiences that you have had, and really proud of you, man.
Thank you.
I do. I tell people, I know that guy, man. Yeah. I know him. Seriously. Honest to God, I know him.
Hey, listen, I've known you a long time, and you're a good man as well. And the words you share with me, I take it as high praise. So thank you. It was great to see you in Kansas City. I don't know if people understand that you and I can talk for hours about football.
You're right.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom with me.
Well, you're the best, and appreciate you carving time, because I know you don't have a whole lot of it. You're a busy man, and to give us some of it is greatly appreciated, my man.
Thank you, brother. I got one last question, because I do this for a living. I am a reporter.
There you go.
What position would you draft?
What position would I draft? Boy, I think as late as they're going to be in the first round, they're drafting at number 28. I know tight end is a fairly good position in terms of like a higher pick. The thing to do, Bill, like a lot of these drafts, if you've got multiple third, fourth, and fifth round picks, you're in high cotton. You're in good shape, because that's where the depth of the draft is. But as a result of that, guys are going to be picked higher than they really should be. But I'd think, according to what I've found out so far, tight end is a good position group in this year's draft. Defensive line is a decent position. Offensive line is probably okay. I'd probably stay in those areas.
Okay. I'll be waiting and watching. I hope for the best, and hope we get a chance to be back there again next year. And if we do, we'll do this all over again. How's that?
How about that, my man?
Cool. Nice to see you, Dave.
Same here, Bill. Thanks.
All right.
At First Star Logistics, we're a very strict company that really puts the pressure on our employees. Breaks? What are those?
That's what I'm talking about, Icky. Get the body right, then the mind's right. You know,
gotta get that body right.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Become a star with a chance to earn the highest commission percentages in the industry as a freight broker agent. Check out firststarlogistics.com.